That child playing alone in the corner of the classroom might be shy, might be a loner, or he could have a condition known as autism that can create hypersensitivity to sounds, smells, and visual stimulation that simply overwhelms the child. On our show today, Ed Asner and his son Matt help us understand autism. I'm Mike Tucker, and we're here to help you create your best life possible.
This is Lifestyle Magazine with your hosts, Dr. Charmaine Long, Obi DK, Lionel LaMountain, and Mike and Gail Tucker.
Edward Asner is a legend that won Emmy Awards playing a newspaper editor searching for the truth on TV. He's here with his son Matt to share the truths they've learned from personal experience about autism. We want to welcome you gentlemen to the show. I'm privileged actually to sit on this set with three men who are fathers of autistic sons. And so I know this is an interesting thing for you especially. You've been looking forward to the show as well because of your own son's condition.
Of all the shows we're doing, this has been the most special for me because I'm so grateful you take your time to discuss this. It's a growing problem, and sometimes we parents feel isolated. And thank you for your time today and for everything you're going to share. Thank you for being here.
Pleased to be here.
Edward?
Misery loves company.
Well, Edward, tell us, when was your son first diagnosed?
He must have been 7 or 8. It was way too late.
Yeah.
He was born out of wedlock. His mother would put him in one nursery school after the other, and he'd be bounced and he'd be disciplined. And finally, when he started school, I found her to be almost like a Munchausen mother. He'd be kept home all the time. So finally, I sued for full custody and got him about 7 or, well, let's see. He went into second grade, so he'd probably about 8.
7 or 8, yeah.
And I got full custody, put him, and the first class that he was in, my lady friend at the time, who then became my second wife, would go there and he'd be sprawled out on the floor, he'd be rolling around on the floor. There was no discipline in the class whatsoever. And she, thank God, kept fighting with the principal to advance him to a stricter and stricter and more demanding environment. And when he finally graduated from that school, I'm talking too long, I know.
That's all right.
He went to Cal Poly middle school.
Yeah.
And they never had an autistic kid, but they really made a home for him there.
Oh, that's wonderful.
You know, you said he was bounced from like one place to the other. Sort of had a similar experience. When people don't know the child is autistic, they think the kid has behavioral problems. They're just a brat and they don't want to do things. And it's really tough on that kid and it's tough on the parent. And I appreciate your patience. How did you, this was a long time ago when he's diagnosed. I mean, I imagine.
He's 28.
He's 28, so it was a while ago. I mean, how did you feel? I don't know how I felt when I heard it. I mean, how did you feel when you heard your son had autism?
Well, my lady was doing all the fighting, and I was hauled up anytime I needed to make an appearance, which almost never. Yeah. But she was able to succeed and get him advanced, and he was having meetings with the psychologist, all that.
Yeah, all those meetings.
And let's face it, your boy, from what you've told me, is 8.
He's 8 years old.
And my son was 28, is 28 now. So the absolute volume of information and awareness that we now find, thanks to guys like him, it's a world of difference. It was like the Dark Ages when he came down with it.
It's hard enough now. I can't imagine what it was like back then.
Yeah.
Matt, you have a son with autism. The fact that you have a brother with autism, did that help any with this adjustment and diagnosis?
I actually have 3 children in my house with autism.
3? I did not know that.
I do. My wife and I have 3 children on
Okay.
the spectrum. I have my son was diagnosed when he was about 4 or 5. And I'd had a little bit of experience with my father, watching him with Charlie. And
I want to interrupt there
Sure.
and say, my wife, who helped raise Charlie, used to make the joke that he wasn't suffering from autism, he was suffering from Asnerism. Please continue.
okay, on that note.
On that note, yeah,
And by the way,
boom.
it's very true. You asked a great question. How did that make you feel? And I think any parent, when they hear there's something possibly wrong with their child, goes through this incredible, awful feeling.
It was denial for me.
It's I felt lost when I was told. I was horrified.
Yeah.
And like I said, he had told me when Charlie was 8 or 9 that Charlie had autism. I didn't know what autism was.
No.
I didn't
I'd
either.
seen Rain Man.
Yeah.
So I kind of thought, okay, maybe when he gets a little older, we're going to go to Las Vegas. We're going to make some money. But autism isn't that.
No.
It's different for everyone. There's a saying.
So different.
Once you've met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism, and it's so true.
Yes.
It's a spectrum disorder. So on this side of the spectrum, you have people who have a lot of difficulty in communication, and it goes all the way. Maybe use an iPad to communicate, or maybe can't communicate at all. Then you get further down the spectrum, and way over here, you have people like maybe him, or people CEOs at major corporations.
Yeah.
So it's a wild world.
Yeah. You've got 3 children in your house with autism, and all different as far as their levels of functioning or the type of where they are on the spectrum.
Yeah, I mean we have one that's 11 that is extremely high functioning,
Yes.
and does extremely well in school, and the byproducts of autism, the comorbidities of autism, aren't necessarily there. We have a 7-year-old in the house who has high functioning autism, has some anxiety issues.
Yes.
And then Will, who's 13, who's probably the most intellectually challenged, but he's an incredible young man, really incredible young man.
My son is 2. He's 2. He's diagnosed at 2. He's 8 years old. He's on the high functioning end. He has these, he's very verbal, but he takes things so literally. The sense of fairness is so keen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But each one is different for sure.
Yeah. So you've got 3 in your house, so 3 different challenges.
Correct.
3 different things to deal with. You raised one, you're raising one. Bless your hearts. Thank you. We need to take a break. We're going to come back with more right after this.
Stay with us. There's more Lifestyle Magazine coming up.
So many times, even in the midst of what looks like success, we find ourselves disillusioned with life. We find ourselves saying, there must be more to life than this. And we don't understand what that more might be.
One of my goals of coming to Living Well is to be able to get my peace back, to get my joy back, to get freedom back. But it's such a joy to say, you don't have to feel like that, or you don't have to continue your life like that. There's a place where you can go, and that's Living Well, so that you can live well.
One of the things that really helps me out in this time is the Cartman Drama Triangle. And that one in particular really kind of helps me to see, hey, when are you being a victim? Are you currently walking through a cycle, or are you living healthy right now?
So why I would recommend Living Well is it works. I tried so many different things. I tried therapy, I tried other small counseling groups, I tried inner healing ministries, and everything helped a little, but it was just a Band-Aid on a big wound.
Living Well Ministries is a 28-week group process. We help you develop a healthy biblical relationship with God, understand your relationship with yourself, And both of these will enhance your relationship with other people.
The care that the individuals leading the groups and trust, that was always professed. And if we would just come in, as we were, just come in as we were and participate and just see what takes place. And I did that.
I would say the biggest gift I could ever give my family is going through Living Well.
There's never been a place, and oftentimes I think of this, that I have absolutely felt the safest. I felt the most known.
Our circumstances do not have to dictate our feelings or actions. It's possible to have peace even in times of trouble.
When I began this journey, it was about self-discovery and self-healing. What I learned, when you're adopted, you do feel differently than those that weren't. I was always happy, I was content, but I felt that there were pieces of my life puzzle missing. Adoption affects more than just a child. It touches so many people on both sides of each family. What I hope people get from this book is that blended families are a result of a fragmented situation, and it's not the child's fault. These decisions were made for them. This is not just my story. Both moms wrote a chapter on their perspective, and there is a chapter with advice on ways to find your biological family. This is a lifelong adventure with twists and turns every step of the way, but I encourage you to take that first step. There are many unplanned pregnancies, but there are no unplanned adoptions.
It all starts with a single seed. Tiny, aren't they? But don't let their size fool you. When these seeds come together, they can pack a powerful punch. That's when the real magic happens. Because when everything works together, you're able to make things. Great things. At Five Loaves Foundation, we believe that every single seed of giving matters. That's why our founders are covering 100% of all operating costs. So each dollar you give will impact a life directly. So we can provide free medical, dental, and vision clinics, empower children at orphanages, and build schools for the deaf and blind around the world. It's about coming together so we can make a big difference. We invite you to join us, and together we will build lasting change in this time of global uncertainty. Five Loaves Foundation. Giving done well.
We are visiting here with Emmy Award winner Ed Asner and his son Matt, both who have autistic sons. And so I'm sorry, you just distracted me. You're over there cutting up. You're having more fun over here, I think, than anybody else.
You got to.
And I appreciate it.
Life's such a tragedy.
Yeah.
We gotta laugh it up.
Yeah, absolutely. Matt, tell me about the spectrum of symptoms for autistic children. I know there's a wide spectrum of things that are classified as autistic.
Well, Autism Speaks has something called Early Access to Care,
and that's the organization you work with?
That's the organization that I work with, yes.
Okay, very good.
And we're trying to get people to look at the early signs of autism, which are mostly communication, problems, lack of eye contact, delayed speech.
Mm-hmm. Something we dealt with.
Not responding to your name when they're called, and Early Access to Care has been an education campaign to talk to physicians and parents, and try to educate them to look for the signs, because it's very important. You caught it early. You
2 years old.
Started getting services at 2, 3 years old.
The speech was delayed.
Mm-hmm.
It was a major delay. And then there are other things, like they have different autistic kids have different reactions to the five senses. Some can be overly sensitive to touch,
exactly,
or taste.
Sensory issues.
Hearing is a big one. Our son had trouble with that as well, the sensory things.
Yeah, and with Will in particular, we started noticing some sensory issues with Will. Right. Very much delayed speech.
Yes.
Will didn't speak really until he was 5.
Oh, really?
Sounds used to drive Charlie nuts.
Yeah.
Is that right?
The piercings. Ooh.
Scares them.
And the thing is, we caught it early, 18 months.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
But we would go to a doctor and we'd say, we really think there's something going on here. And the doctor would say, it's just, don't.
Really?
He's a late bloomer. He's
really?
A late bloomer. And we were vigilant.
Good.
And it's really important. If you feel there's something going on, if a parent feels there's something going on, talk to your doctor.
You got to follow through.
And follow through. And if that doctor
change doctor.
Or change.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
Yes.
If that doctor says, "I'm sorry, I don't think there's anything wrong here," then go to another doctor, get a second opinion,
and follow your instinct on this.
Follow your instinct.
There are studies done right now showing that a woman's instinct are often more accurate at diagnosing someone than even the doctor. If she says, this is wrong with my son, my daughter, my husband, a doctor needs to pay attention. Studies are actually showing that.
Well, that makes
hopefully the woman is okay.
Well, yeah. Now, if she's got problems, we don't know what's going on because the man is usually clueless.
That makes a lot of sense because, a mother or a father is with their child more than anyone else. And they're going to understand if something's going on. I think we've talked about autism now for years and years and years, and I think people understand it a little more. I still think we've got a long way to go because autism is invisible, and we have a barrier to break through with parents because no one wants anything to be wrong with their children.
No.
And so to get them to a point where they say, okay, I'm gonna talk to a doctor about this. That's a big hurdle.
And there's social barriers, too, to break through still.
Absolutely.
I don't think there's the level of tolerance that needs to exist with these children. People are still intolerant, they're still judgmental, and even happens within people's families. You tell them, oh, the child is on the spectrum, but they still think, well, it's a parenting issue or the kid has a behavioral issue. Have you experienced that? I've experienced that.
Oh, they're stupid.
You heard it from Mr. Asner.
When Ed Asner says it within his
I agree with him.
People are afraid of what they don't understand.
Yeah.
Now,
and I think...
To me, the interesting thing is, all well and good with all that scientists find out, and yet why are males much more afflicted?
I'm curious about that too.
Yeah,
doesn't make any sense.
I don't have a direct answer on that, but we're looking into it. We have a project called the Missing Project, MSSNG, and we're mapping 10,000 genomes, full genomes. So it's a massive amount of information. And we're in a partnership with Google, opening it up to scientists to research with the information. And it's open science. So if you're a researcher working in autism, you have an open door.
Incredible.
You can
That's
get to
wonderful.
that information.
What a gift.
And we believe that in 10, 15 years, we're going to have some answers to some of the most pressing questions on autism. One of those is why boys?
How prevalent is this?
It's 1 in 68 children are being diagnosed.
1 in 68?
1 in 68.
And do you know what the percentage
now,
is?
when Charlie was born,
it
was 1 in 5,000, I think.
Wow. 500.
No, I think it was 5,000.
Really? So why, and again, we don't know why the increase then, right? Is it just better diagnosis?
There's certainly we certainly are diagnosing more, but there's no way that we're diagnosing that much.
That much better.
And if it was 1 in 5,000, it shows you that 20 years ago, we were in the dark ages in mental health.
Yeah,
we were.
That's crazy.
I think, too, one of the advancements, I think is impacting it is, like my wife and I, we waited till we were older to have kids.
Yeah.
I noticed that's one of the environmental
It
factors.
is,
We had
definitely.
IVF with our son. I was 40 when we had him. She was like 38 or something. I think more and more older couples are having kids later in life. Maybe that's an association. I don't know.
Absolutely, and we're looking for for environmental links, possible causes. But it's important for us to find out what causes autism.
Absolutely.
Because we want we want better treatments.
You can't treat it unless you know.
Exactly, and that's the most important thing is to make sure that individuals living with autism have the best lives possible.
What's the percentage, do you know, between the high functioning, as they say, and the low functioning when it comes to the 1 in 68 kids, or is it all across the board?
It's
or?
across the board.
Okay, so there's not a greater percentage of one versus the other.
I think the mid-range, has the most, in that group, but it's a spectrum disorder, and and that's
so it really is across the board. There's not just more high functioning versus low functioning. It's just
no.
kind of
I mean,
random.
it's fairly well distributed.
That's incredible. Now, Autism Speaks. This is an organization that you work with, and their primary aim is what?
The primary aim is to make the lives of those living with autism and their families better.
Okay, so it's providing services, resources,
grants,
Grants.
scientific research,
Okay.
and
It's so needed.
and education, obviously, as well.
Absolutely.
There's a website where people can go.
yes, it's autismspeaks.org.
.org.
And if you haven't been to that website, we have an incredible resource guide there. There are toolkits there that are free to download, probably 40 of them
Wow.
that you can download.
Thank you.
By the way, and also Autism Speaks has done a lot of advocacy work. We passed insurance legislation in 43 states.
Oh, wonderful.
Wow.
And helped with the ABLE Act, which is now going
done.
through the states now.
That's awesome.
So, very proud to be part of that organization.
I would imagine so. I want to hear more about that and other resources that might be available when we come back. And we'll be back with more right after this.
Lifestyle Magazine will be right back.
So many times, even in the midst of what looks like success, we find ourselves disillusioned with life. We find ourselves saying, there must be more to life than this. And we don't understand what that more might be.
One of my goals of coming to Live and Well was to be able to get my peace back, to get my joy back, to get freedom back. But it's like it's such a joy to say, you don't have to feel like that, or you don't have to continue your life like that. There's a place where you can go, and that's living well, so that you can live well.
One of the things that really helps me out in this time is the Cartman drama triangle. And that one in particular really kind of helps me to see, hey, when are you being a victim? Are you currently walking through a cycle, or are you living healthy right now?
So why I would recommend Living Well is it works. I tried so many different things. I tried therapy, I tried other small counseling groups, I tried inner healing ministries, and everything helped a little, but it was just a Band-Aid on a big wound.
Living Well Ministries is a 28-week group process. We help you develop a healthy biblical relationship with God, understand your relationship with yourself, and both of these will enhance your relationship with other people.
The care that the individuals leading the groups and trust, that was always professed. And if we would just come in, as we were, just come in as we were and participate and just see what takes place. And I did that.
I would say the biggest gift I could ever give my family is going through Living Well.
There's never been a place, and oftentimes I think of this, that I have absolutely felt the safest. I felt the most known.
Our circumstances do not have to dictate our feelings or actions. It's possible to have peace even in times of trouble.
Ed, has your son, as an adult with autism, had any issues finding employment?
Well, yeah,
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. That's the big project. Now, Charles, through many schools, etc., finally ended up at Chapel Haven in New Haven, Connecticut.
Oh.
And while there, he took classes at the University of Southern Connecticut, and last year he got his bachelor's degree there.
That's great.
So intellectually,
yeah,
he's quite capable, and he kind of segued into finding out about geography and the fact that it's a wide field and that people are needed in that area. Mm-hmm. So he might be pursuing a higher degree later on in that area. But right now, it's almost impossible to get him a job.
Mm. Is it mainly because of the social skills, or is it
social skills?
Social skills is where this is.
It's he either talks too much or he talks about the wrong thing.
Talk too much, understand that.
And I said something when we were speaking earlier. People are nervous or afraid of what they don't know.
Yes.
And I think autism certainly makes employers nervous.
Yes.
And we've done a lot of work at Autism Speaks about we're starting to really center in on this issue, and we've done some town halls in several cities where employers that have hired people with autism have given their experiences, and overwhelmingly they talk about the positive aspects of it and how it's helped their businesses, what model employees they make, how honest they are, they're always on time. Microsoft has a great program
And
now.
Google, I mean, these kids are
And
geniuses. The therapist who owned the therapy company that we've been taking our son to for 6 years, she just got her dream job of being hired by Google. Because Google told her that they have so many Asperger's, they don't use that term anymore, I know, that they wanted a full-time person just to help those, those employees, but they're geniuses on so many different levels of science and things.
But we need to really shift the paradigm in this country about employing people with disabilities. And I think to do that, we need to start by our leaders maybe working to incentivize it in the early stages of it, and take away that stigma that exists.
There's a stigma.
And really, let them prove what great employees they are, because they're incredible people,
and they're safe people.
Absolutely.
And an example of social skills, when he was maybe 10, 11, a cop pulled me over, and I was waiting for him to come up to the window, and Charlie's in the front seat with me, and the cop comes up to the window, and he says, "Do you know who you're talking to?"
Oh, no.
And Charles,
be quiet.
Charles. Fortunately, I was able to talk him into acceptance.
Oh, I see.
Well, they're very protective, too.
Yeah, they are protective.
But we have to have buy-in from employers. We have to have buy-in from the general public,
Agreed.
And
funding.
We really have to start working to get these people employed, because there's like a 90% employment rate.
Yeah.
There's a website up called thespectrumcareers.com.
Okay.
And that is like a monster.com for people who are on the spectrum.
That's awesome.
Autism Speaks is a partner in
Spectrum
that.
Careers.
Thespectrumcareers.com. And companies like TJ Maxx are listing jobs on there. So it's a great progressive way to kind of look for work, for the people who are looking for it. Who are
Having resources like this is important, so I want to thank you for sharing those. Yeah. We're going to take a break. We'll be back with a closing thought right after this.
Lifestyle Magazine. We'll be right back.
Matt and Ed, I want to thank you for being here. We're almost out of time. And so, Ed, do you have a final word that you'd like to share with our viewers?
Get more time.
Get more time.
Yeah, I just want to say that Charlie is, you know how they used to say the most interesting character I've ever met?
Yes.
Charles, for me, is one of the most interesting characters I've ever met.
Wonderful.
He's if he weren't so demanding at times, I'd kick him in the butt. But and if Matthew weren't sitting here, I'd say he's my favorite son.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ed. Matt, final word?
I think what I want to stress is that there's always hope, and never lose hope, because hope is all we have. And
that's true.
I was told my son would never finish school, he would never have a job, he would never live on his own. I don't know if that's true or not, but I choose not to believe that.
That's right.
And my son, the most important thing for me is making my sons in charge of their own destiny, and give them the ability to make themselves happy.
Thank you, both of you, for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
And thank you for being a part of this one as well. We look forward to seeing you again next time, but until then, you take care of yourself. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching Lifestyle Magazine. We look forward to being with you again next week. To get a copy of today's offer, call 888-940-0062 or go to lifestyle.org. That's 888-940-0062 or lifestyle.org.